Quick show of hands. How many of you came to this session because you thought there was going to be free food? Anybody? All right, good. I have bad news for you. Welcome. So glad to have you guys here. I want to tell you a little bit about what this is about so you'll know if you're in the right place. So this AI thing, it's got me freaked out as a photographer. But I have found ways to use it that I think that help me to sleep at night. There are things that as a photographer that I just don't want to do, but I want to make the use of AI when it helps me productivity-wise. But you're going to see not only where that boundary, I think that boundary lies, but I'm going to teach you all of the stuff. So we're going to go through, I'm going to show you how it all works and how, I want to show you how I'm using it in my own workflow, and you can see where I'm like, I'll do this, but I ain't doing that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. So, and a lot of people that say, I'm not going to use AI, they'll say, oh, I'm not using AI, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, look, Photoshop already has a very, very robust set of AI features before. All of these features are AI based. So are all of these features. We've been using AI in Photoshop for years, but it's actually, these aren't the ones that make us lose sleep. These are the ones that we've been using. We just think of them as production tools. It's the ones that I want to teach you that are the newer ones that we struggle with a little bit, and that's what I want to talk about. So a lot of it is how you look at it, how you look at the tool, right? And then it's really how you use it. It's those two things. So we'll start with Photoshop, because most of the stuff we're going to talk about is Photoshop based. Well, I'm going to do some Lightroom at the end if we have time. But I'm going to basically talk about 7 major areas that we're going to discuss. There are 2 basic things that we do in Photoshop all day long, and they are generative fill, and I'm sure you've heard of that one. And the lesser known one, which is really, really powerful, is generative expand. And so that's what we're going to do. Generative fill, actually, I look at it strictly as a production tool, right? And I'm going to give you a perfect example. All right. One of the things that I do a lot of portraiture, and one of the things that I hate like you can't believe is reflections in glasses. And I've tried all the tricks. You know that one time somebody was doing a headshot of me, and I went to go do the headshot, and the guy handed me a different set of glasses with no glass in them. He said, hey, wear this because we don't want reflections. And I put on a set of glasses that look absolutely nothing like me. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And he's like, but you don't understand how hard it is to get rid of reflection. Yes, I do. It is very hard. So in my studio, one of the things we used to do is we would take the light and try to get it so high that you couldn't see the reflection, and then you try to tip it. It was a mess. Now it's fixed in 12 seconds. And I've tried over the years, I've done different things. I've done this thing where I would take the portrait and I would tell my subject, all right, I'm going to shoot this shot, and my assistant's going to come. Don't move your head. I'm going to take a second shot, and then I'm going to mask the 2 together in Photoshop. But now it's so easy using generative fill. And this is a typical thing that I would use generative fill for. So here's how it works. You just get the lasso tool and make a very loose selection around the reflection. Just very, very loose. Hold the shift key so you can make a second one, all right? Just make a very loose selection like this. And then you're just going to go down here to this little generative fill. Just click it and just hit generate. That's all. That's it. 2 clicks. And it takes about 12 seconds or more. And I know, it's crazy. It's gone. Now, it also gives you 3 different variations. So you can look at and choose if you want. And you'll notice that the expression in the eyes change a little. So you have to make a very careful decision about which one you want, but it's 12 seconds. And when I think about how much time I spent either dealing with it in person or dealing with it later in Photoshop, I'm like, it's kind of groundbreaking. I want to give you some tips that'll help you to understand like what just happened and how to make it work for you. The first one is, this is a big question I get. Do I leave this blank? When do I leave it blank? Or when do I type something in? Like, what am I supposed to do? So basically, I leave it blank almost all the time, but it's when you want to remove something. There's something in the photo you want to remove. Now, we've been removing stuff in Photoshop since Photoshop 1.0, 30-something years ago. The clone stamp tool was born to help us get rid of stuff. So I'm thinking, this is it. This is what I want. This is the main tool that I want it to do. I want it to remove stuff. All right. So about 99% of the time, I actually leave this blank and I just hit the word generate. I don't touch anything else. I make a selection and I hit generate and boom, it's done in 12 seconds. All right. So that's the process. You make a selection using any tool that you want. You can use the rectangular tool or whatever. It doesn't matter what tool you use. Then I click generative fill. Because you got to tell Photoshop, what do you want to do? You made a selection. What do you want to do? I want to use generative fill, and then you're going to click the button called generate. That's it, all right? Then you wait 12 seconds. Why do you wait 12 seconds? Because your image has to go to Adobe's cloud, where I imagine like Taylor Swift does something to it and sends it back, and then it happens. The whole round trip takes about 12 seconds, depending on your internet connection, all right? And when you're done, I mentioned you get these variations. It gives you 3 different looks, and you get to decide which one you want. I will tell you this, in my experience, it's rarely the first one that it gives you. It's usually number 2 or number 3. And if you don't like it, you can just ask it to, see the word generate? You can just ask it to generate again, and it'll make another 3, and another 3, and another. It'll make as many as you want until you come to the one that you want. But every time you do it, it generates a brand new set of eyes and the whole 9 yards. So that's why I say, like, you can look at the variations here, and the first one looks pretty good in this case. The second one, it kind of replaced the reflection with a worse reflection. The third one, the reflection's not so good, but the first one nailed it. It's not normally that way. It normally is number 2 or number 3 is what makes the difference. All right, so when would you type in a prompt? When you want to add something to your photo that wasn't there, or you want to change something in the photo. So someone's wearing a blue shirt and you wish they were wearing a blazer instead, you can do that. This is the stuff that makes me lose sleep. I feel dirty when I change stuff there. Like if I take a picture of like 4 buildings, if I went here in Manhattan, I shot 4 buildings and you see an airplane or a bird right in between the buildings, I have always been able to do that in Photoshop. I could go find a picture of a plane I took 2 years ago, select it and stick it in there. But I never did that stuff because I felt dirty. Every time I looked at that photo, I knew I cheated. So it felt weird to me. I always felt like, well, I know that Photoshop does all this stuff, but I would just, this is how stupid I am, I would have to wait for a plane to fly over. I would just do it. I don't know why, it's just something, but that is the stuff that makes me lose sleep. When I'm adding things like, if there's this nice shoreline and I say, you know what would look good there? Lighthouse. Photoshop will add it. You just type in the word lighthouse and make a selection. It'll put a lighthouse right in there. And it'll give you 3 different lighthouses to choose from. And every time I would look at that shot, I would always know I cheated. I know that there's people that go, I have no problem with that. And that's cool. I'm just telling you how I feel, that I feel weird when I do that. And years ago, I did, and we'll talk about this later, but years ago I had a picture from Maine, and everyone's seen that lighthouse in Maine, the famous one. Well, the day I was there was just no good sky, and this is before sky replacement was built into Photoshop, and I put my own sky in there. And I'm telling you what, every time I looked at that photo, I always knew that wasn't the sky that was there. Don't worry, I got over it. But at that point, I used to look at that and go, So that's why when I see that prompt, I generally leave it blank. Because I know if I'm typing something in there, I'm about to change something dramatically in the photo, or I'm going to put something there that wasn't supposed to be there. So why don't I type in stuff? Why do I not put that? Because I want to sleep. I want to sleep at night. I don't want to be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. All right? So here's the main thing that I use generative fill for. I use it to do things that I could already do in Photoshop, but it's so much faster. So much faster, as you'll see as we're going to go into this, all right? All right, my number one thing I probably use it for is removing distractions, just distracting things on my image. And let me give you an example why this is so better than things like content-aware fill or the healing brush or any of that stuff. So for example, this is an awful shot, but whatever. There's a garbage can right in the shot, which is making an awful shot even worse. So let's go ahead and I'm going to put a selection around this garbage can, and then I'm going to use content-aware fill because that was the best thing that we had. So I choose fill, I hit content aware, and let's see what kind of job it does. Oh, it looked like it chopped the tree right up. Here, let's zoom in. That's nice, perfect. Oh, and they added a little extra tree. All right, so let's try the healing brush instead, right? The healing brush is a very famous tool. Let's go get the healing brush. Let me make the brush a little smaller, and then we're just gonna paint right over this thing. Hang tight for a second, and that'll probably do a pretty good job. Ooh, ouch. All right, so I'm gonna instead get the lasso tool. I'm gonna lasso around it, just like I did with the first one, just like I did with Content Aware Fill. But instead, I'm going to hit Generative Fill. I'm not going to type anything in. I'm going to hit Generate. And we'll wait our 12 seconds. And let's see how it does. Now, every time it does a different thing, so you never know exactly what you're going to get. But that's a whole lot better. Here's version 2. That's better. Version 3 that's not bad either. Any one of the 2 or 3, I think, would be fine. They would either one. But there's another little tip that you want to do. You want to, if you look right here, there's a little up arrow. This ups the resolution of what you just did. Now, if you click on it and you see it's too small to enhance, you don't have to worry about it. That means that the size of your fix was under 1024 by, 1024 by 1024. So as long as it's 1024 on the side, if you do something small, don't worry about it. If you do something big, you got to hit that button. And it runs another AI on top of the AI you just ran to make it look better. And it makes a big, big difference. But don't be surprised if you click it and you get that little warning that I just got. This is too small. If it's too small, it's too small. Don't do it. But if it doesn't do anything, you'll see it say the word enhance. All right? Here I'm going to give you another example with this image. Look at that wall, how it's dirty here. This is in Santorini. And look how dirty that wall is. And I was like, I could clone it down. I could do it. It would take me an hour, but it's probably worth it because I kind of like just the emptiness of this shot. And let's go here. And I'm just going to hit Generative Fill and hit Generate. And it's going to save me however half an hour it would have taken to make it look realistic. And let's take a look at what it does. We're going to get, again, 3 samples, and we'll see how it goes. The most fun part of all this is the waiting. Look at that. Let's look at one of the other variations, though, because we might can do better. Oh, yes. Oh, that's the one, number 2. Number 3 is kind of meh. Number 2 is pretty good. All right? And that's probably big enough that I would up-res and do the up-resolution, but that's quite a bit better. Here's an interesting thing. What if you do this and you want to remove a garbage can or whatever you want to remove, and it doesn't? It just doesn't do it. I've had people email me and say, Scott, I wanted to remove this thing from a swing, and it put another thing there. It just puts another one there. So instead of removing the thing I wanted, right, like there was a squirrel on this chair, and I tried to get rid of it, it put a bigger squirrel. Instead, it replaces it. All right, I'm going to give you 2 ways to deal with this because you're absolutely positively going to run into this. Number 1 is to type in the word remove. I know it sounds stupid, but it tells it, no, don't put another squirrel there. Just remove whatever was there. Just type the word remove, and it actually works. All right, that's number 1. Number 2 is you can just go back and make your selection larger. Because here's what's probably happened. When you made your selection, if you touch the edge of anything, it thinks you want more of that. So you've got to get the whole thing. And let me give you an example. So let's take a look at this church. And if you look closely, you see how my selection kind of got a little bit of the roof on the left and a little bit of the entryway at the front. Like you can't touch any of it, right? Because here's what happens. If you're touching any of that church and you go, and so you can see my selection here, and go and we let me move this out of the way, hit generate, it's probably not going to remove the church because I've got part of the church, a little tiny bit of it, a tiny corner, and a little bit of the roof. And so it thinks, oh, you want a different church. Well, how's this one? No, it's bad. How about this church? No, it's worse. So just go back, get these tools, and just make sure you're not touching any of that church. You got to be a nice, clean selection, and then just do the same thing. Hit Generative Fill, hit Generate, give it a second, and give it 12 seconds. Come on, you can do it. Now there's no church. So those are your two tricks. Type remove, if that doesn't work, just make your selection bigger. Just go well outside it so it doesn't touch anything. All right, so that's the key, make a larger selection. Now, there is another tool that you can use that also is great for removing distracting stuff. You can choose the remove tool. Now, the remove tool will let you go and trace, all the way down there, right? But you don't have to do that because you can trace every line. But if you choose that, look up there at the top. There's a new thing called Find Distractions. And there's one called Wires and Cables. You just choose it, wait for it, keep waiting for it, and keep waiting. Look, I know. I'm a travel photographer. Let me tell you, the day that this came out, I was on the floor in the fetal position. But as a travel photographer, that pales in comparison to the bane of travel photography, which is tourists. They have no right to be there. I'm trying to make serious images. These people are walking into my shots and they're taking selfies and the whole 9 yards. So I'm in France, I'm in the Montmartre area, and I see this couple in the window of this little cafe, and you can tell they're in love. And I thought, I love this picture of people in love, but I hate the tourists that are around them. So here's what we're going to do. Look at them. Look, you can see the love. You're going to select these tourists. Just make a loose selection around the tourists that have every right to be there. And then these, hold a shift key so you can add more tourists because there are more tourists. And let's just get them. And I like the way I left that guy's head. We'll just leave that. And this is not great selections. Let's move over here. Look at this. This guy, come on. This guy. He's looking at that couple in 11 saying, I wish it was me. All right, then you got these people over. What is it, half a person? That's the worst. All right, you get all this and make sure you get their shadows and everything. All right. Once you've done that, we'll kind of move over here and let's hit Generative Fill and just generate. And let's see what we get, another 12 seconds. And that was not the greatest selections I've ever made, as you well saw. But the important thing is I hate people. I don't want them, whoa, look at that. Look at that. And look at the love in their eyes. It grew stronger. I think their love grew stronger. Look over here. All right, now you've got other options that are weird. And actually, either the third or the first one is, I'm going to go with the first one. They're actually pretty good. And there's those guys. Yeah, look at this. It brings the romance of Paris that is ruined in every other way. All right, so there's a couple of things. This next one is a surprising thing. If you're a portrait photographer, this one really surprised me. And I thought one day I would try it, and I did, and I was like pleasantly surprised. And what it is smoothing skin. Now, it's not really, you're not gonna run this on someone that's 80 and they're gonna look 14. But what it is for is gradations in their face. So when you take a picture of someone, if the gradations in your lighting is really smooth, it's a smooth gradation of tones. So I will run this on anybody that has like hot spots or gradations that don't move smoothly. And what's amazing about it is, I'll just do it I'll tell you what's amazing while we're doing it. Let's get the lasso tool again and just select these little hot spot areas here, right around here. Let's get this. Let's get all of this. And I've been teaching tricks to get rid of all these hot spots and stuff for years. And in 20, 25 minutes, you could have all these gone. But it's your choice, 25 minutes or 12 seconds. It's up to you. And what's amazing about this is, let's hit Generative Fill and then just generate, is that the skin that it replaces it with is like better than what we've been doing with frequency separation and all these complicated techniques that we've done. It puts pretty good skin in there. It's pretty amazing, and it fixes a lot of the hot spots. Let me zoom in so you can get a little better look here, and you can see the difference in the gradations of skin. But there's pores. There's all the pores and stuff. And while it did remove the like kind of oily looking areas, it left the highlights. And I did the up-res here to enhance the details a little bit, but that's quite a big difference, and you do it in seconds. When I think of what we do with painting all this stuff in with frequency separation, all the stuff we've been teaching for years, I'm like, this looks great. And just don't forget to up-res it. Don't forget to hit that button. I hit the button all the time because the worst thing that can happen is it says, we don't need to do it. It'll just prop up little things that says you don't need to. The best thing that can happen is it doesn't. All right, I do have a few exceptions where I actually do type something in, but they're very specific. So for example, reflections. See the reflection there? I did that in Photoshop without using generative fill. The thing is, if the subject that you want to make a reflection on is straight in front of you, right? It's like horizontal to you, doing reflections is a 10-second trick. Here, I'll just show you one. Here's a car. I guess you figured that. And then I'm going to select that much of it right there. You put it up on its own layer. You press Command-J on Mac or Control-J on Windows, and you get just that. You go to Free Transform. You hit Flip Vertical. Drag it straight down, and what? No. Yes. Yes, you get, but that's easy. We've been doing that in Photoshop for years. It's like the easiest thing in the world. You know what's not the easiest thing in the world? If the car's not straight flat in front of you. If you do it to a car like this one that's parked on this, oh, you're trashed. It will not make a good selection, and you have to tweak it, and it's just a mess. But with generative fill, not only does it do it perfectly, it does the reflection just like it would really do it in real life, but it gives you all kinds of options. So I'm going to actually type in the word here. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to type in reflection. Now, I could already do this. I've done it many times on cars at an angle, but it's a pain in the butt. Look at that. I know, it's crazy, and you get different versions. And if you don't like any of these versions, if you're like, they're okay, just hit the generate button. Again, you don't have to make another selection. It'll use the selection you used before and say, how about this one? No? How about this one? Ooh, I like that one. Ooh, that's good. That's okay. I like that one. I like that. Oh, yeah, that's the one right there. By the way, I'm going to just zoom in on the back window here. Let me just show you. So look at this mess. It's picking up the roof of it. This was shot in an air hangar. It's picking up the roof, right? So I'm just going to select the area of the roof you can see reflected in here. All right, now, if you want to remove something, remember, if you want to remove it, you don't have to type anything in there. Just make the selection, hit Generative Fill, and hit Generate. Give it a few seconds, and we'll see what happens. But I kind of already know what's going to happen. It's going to take it away. And that, I've cleaned up cars before. Cars are the worst because it's like shooting into a mirror. It reflects everything it sees. It's just the worst. But that makes it so much easier. But here it comes. I've been kind of saving this. I'm going to turn you on to the thing that I use this the most for. This is the most, has changed for me everything, is fixing compositional mistakes, of which I've made a million. It's where you do that little thing and you look at the picture and you're like, oh, I cropped it too close. I didn't do this right? And this is where the other tool, Generative Expand, is unbelievable. All right, so I'm going to just show you. This is not a great shot I'm going to show you, but you can see where I made a compositional mistake. I'm just standing too close to the subject. This was taken in my hometown of Tampa. I'm going to get the crop tool. So the crop tool is what activates this. And you're going to make sure you choose Generative Expand from up there in the toolbar. And you're going to go, you know what? I was just too close to this manhole cover. I was just too close. And so I'm just going to hit, I don't have to hit anything. I'll just hit return or enter. Or you can click the checkbox up there in the, it's not there now because you've already hit the return key. But if I hit return or enter, then it just does it. And take a look. Done. It's a compositional mistake, and I get multiple choices of how to fix my, it even knew that the first letter was N. I love that. So that's an idea. How about this one where I cropped the bride too close? Her arms cut off in a bad way. It's just, there's a lot of not good stuff happening here. I'm going to pull down the bottom, and I'm going to basically pull the top up a little. Look how close it was to the top of her head. All you do is hit the return or enter. Give it its time, you know, it needs its time. All right. Any second now, I'm sure. There's one dress. I'm not crazy about that one. But there's three. There's like, oh, that's better. That's better. I don't know, 2 or 3. It usually is number 2 or number 3. Yeah. But you have options, and look at all the space above her head, right? It was really tight when and those are my mistakes that I made in camera. Here's one that every time I saw it, I bothered me, and so I rarely shared this photo. It was taken over in Queens. And I cut off the bottom of and when I look at this image, that's all I see. I cut off the bottom right there. That is what I see when I look at this image. Maybe no one else is noticing, but it drives me crazy. This is where you go up here and choose Generative Expand. And I'm just gonna, there it is. Oh, well, it's nice, nice to zoom there, sorry. I'm gonna pull it down a little bit and just hit Generate. Let it marinate. Come on. Look. Come on, this is real Photoshop magic. And I have different ones I can choose from. And like I said, it's usually 2 or 3. One sometimes works, but I mean, that's pretty good. And this was shot in Alabama, Birmingham, I believe it was. All right, and this one, I'm just too close all the way around. Tip of the hat to Stu Greenberg, who took this shot first, and I ran over immediately to steal it. Hang on one second. And look, you're asking for, a couple of inches all the way around the photo. I don't know if it's going to be able to do it. Wink, wink. Look at that. I mean, it's just, but this is so great for fixing compositional mistakes, all right? But there's one other thing. You can take the same idea, right, from this, and there's the 3rd version, right? You can take the same exact idea and apply it to something you might not have thought about, restoring old photos, right? So here's one, and you got the mom and pop there, and they got the Christmas tree and the whole 9 yards. And let's go ahead, and I'm gonna go back and deselect all that stuff. Let's hit the crop tool, because his legs are gone, which is unfortunate. Let's grab the crop tool. Here we go. We're going to pull it out, and then we're going to, drop a little more in here. There we go. Maybe a little, her fingers are cut off. It was just an unfortunate. I did not take this photo. This was taken in the 1960s, so 20 years before I was born. That's not kind. And let's see where we go. But this, when you start opening up that old shoebox, it's just incredible. Now, I'm not liking the shoes. That might not be my first choice. And that's not, but it still looks damaged. It's so good. That's okay. Look at that. You got mom's hand in there. You got the dad's feet in there. Let's just hit Generate again and see if we can do any better. But that's the thing about it. If you don't like it, you can just hit another Generate, and that's a big foot, Dad. And there's one, and I don't know. Oh, there's baby crib. That's good. What happened here? It's a better night than I thought. Anyway, all right. So there's that. Let's move on, because there's another set of filters that it does one amazing thing. It does a couple of good things, but this next one, I want you to be sitting down for this. All right, this is a picture of my brother Jeff. All right, so he was in the Navy, and we're going to go take a picture. We're going to use a neural filter. So under the filter menu, there's this big thing called the neural filters that brings up its own window. And the one I want to bring your attention to, it's total AI based, is Colorize. It basically does, watch. I know, right? I'm going to show you something even better, right? I did one of myself in my prime. Come on. All right, now, this was taken for a band picture, and I had my super cool on. All right, what instrument did I play in this band? Look at the tie, that's the giveaway. Keyboard player. Back in that time, this is the late 70s, early 80s. But what did the rest of the band look like? Oh, cool. Very cool band. All right, everybody look to the left. Okay. But it got worse as I got older. There I am again. But it's this next one where I'm at the Mac. This is the 80s now. In a band. My best. Ready? Let's go. All right. True story, to this day, see the drummer on the right with all the long hair? Still play with him. I still play with the guy on the far left with the hat, Tony. still plays in my band. The woman in the middle was the girl singer. I married her 35 years ago. I know what you're thinking. How did she land a hunk like me? And I'm like, I don't know. I felt bad for her, and it worked out. All right. All right, let's move on. Let me see how I'm going to do on my time. I'm doing surprisingly well. All right, next. This next one, you're going to have to come with me on a journey because people are very hesitant to do sky replacement. It's based on AI, and it does a wonderful job. But I will tell you something. I was the last person in America to do sky replacement. Here's why. So I'm sitting at a bar with a buddy of mine. We're at another conference like this, and we're talking, and I tell them, I said, this is like a highly, highly respected landscape photographer. Everybody would know him. And I said, hey man, that one shot you did out there in Utah, that was the sky you had that day. And he goes, well, that wasn't the sky. I'm like, what? He goes, no, I replaced the sky. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I took that sky in like, I don't know, Arizona. I popped it in the Utah shot. I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, we all do it. And I'm taking, what? These are my heroes. And he's like, yeah, we all do it. And I said, and so he looks at me and he goes, so let me get this straight. You get up in the morning and you have all your gear with you and you hike out there and you're like, you have a headlamp on, you're hiking out there and you're trying not to fall in a snake full of pits, and you get out there and you've done everything right. And if there's no clouds, you never show those photos? I'm like, that's right. He says, you're stupid. And it was at that moment that I realized, so I started talking to everybody, all these other photographers, and they're like, oh yeah, they've all been using it for years. And I'm like, why am I the only one not using it? And here's the moral of the story. I'm now in that group. I now replace skies. I don't like to do it, but I get it. I understand it because we have no control. We've done every single thing right. But when it comes to that point, you know, the sky does. I went to 4 days to Arizona on a photo trip and we never saw a cloud the entire time. So here's what I did to sleep at night. Ready? If I was in Arizona and I opened the photo and there was no clouds, I would only use other photos from Arizona taken in the past. Until that one day, I took a sky from Hawaii and I dropped it into Arizona and I'm like, that's out the window. This looks perfect. All right, sky replacement's built into Photoshop. It's the easiest thing in the world. You just go, basically, you can see this one needs a sky in a bad way. In fact, this is from that stupid trip. You're going to go and and choose sky replacement. It's one of the few features in Photoshop that is named actually what it does. Because so often you're trying to figure out, well, what actually does this do? And up here, under the edit menu, it's just called sky replacement. Something went really wrong when they named that one. Because there's a department at Adobe where they try to name it the farthest from what it does, and they can give a trophy to the engineer and all. Anyway, whatever sky you use last, it just puts it in there. It just pops it in. Done, right? And this has been in Photoshop now for like, what, 3 years, 4 years? And you can go and click on this little icon here, and you can choose any one of the sample images that they give you. And by the way, don't do that. Because if you put it on Instagram, people will line up to go, that's a sample image from Photoshop. And they call you names, they mention your mother, and the whole thing gets bad quick. But you just upload your own. Just like everywhere I go now, I just shoot skies, right? Because these are still sample images, but you just upload your own, right? Just stick, that looks bad. That one was better up here. That doesn't look bad at all. But there's all kinds of controls over what you can do here. You can flip it, you can do all this stuff, and just, I'm not going to take you through all of it. But anyway, we still have a couple minutes left, which is unbelievable to me. So we're going to switch over to Lightroom's AI, because Lightroom has a bunch of AI stuff too. However, Lightroom's set is limited compared to Photoshop's. Photoshop's is wide open, it's the Wild West. This one, Lightroom's got, it only has these basically. It has these AI-powered stuff, but they're pretty good. I'm going to show you 5 of them in the 10 minutes and 47 seconds we have left. All right, the first one is a new one that they just kind of added. It was in Camera Raw first, and they added it to Lightroom, and it's called the Adaptive Profiles. So you know that there's an auto button, right, in Lightroom. You just hit auto, and it's in Camera Raw too. You hit it, and it does a decent job of getting you a good starting place. Now, for years, it didn't. We used to call it the overexpose button. You'd click on it, it would overexpose any photo by 2 stops. But now it uses AI, and it's not bad. Well, Adobe decided to do something more, and they come up with this new generation of stuff, and it's called an adaptive profile. They have one for color and one for black and white, and you just choose them, and it looks at the sky, and it looks at everything, and it tries to balance it. And so it actually does take into account the sky, and it analyzes every single photo on its own and makes its own judgment. So I'll show you here. I'll take a photo, and we'll look at both, all right? So we'll look at auto. Here's auto. I'm just going to click the auto button here. That's been there forever. And it did not a bad job. It's not kicking. But you can see it moved the sliders, right? It's just, that's what it does. It moves the sliders for you. It says, well, this is what I'm seeing, and it moves the sliders. All right, and let's just reset that. Now, the adaptive profile is found under the word profile, and it's just right there, adaptive color. That's the one. Choose that one, right? And here, let's actually choose it instead of saying it. And you can see it actually did a better job. All right, so let's go back and forth. Here's the default. And there's adaptive color there. That's pretty good. But look at the sliders. None of them have moved. So you're starting in a better place. Now you can adjust everything. And look right under, by the way, while I'm tweaking this, look under the word adaptive color. There's an amount slider that you don't get with the auto. So that's kind of nice. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. All right, so you have all those sliders. So you're basically, it just gives you a better starting place. It's like if you're playing baseball, you're starting on second base. So I kind of like that. All right. Unfortunately, at this point in time, this only works on RAW photos. So it may one day work on JPEGs and TIFFs, but for right now, it just works on RAW. That's number one. Number two is there's an AI-powered removal. So it's using technology from Photoshop, which uses technology from Firefly, but who cares? It's pretty good for this stuff. You paint over the thing you want to go away, and it goes away. So you're going to click on the, see it's got scaffolding there? That's not good. That's not good. Go to the eraser tool, and you're just going to make sure that you have this little checkbox turned on. Use Generative AI. Right, that says use the advanced technology to get rid of the stupid scaffolding here, and just paint over it. And this is, again, in Lightroom. It's also in Camera Raw. Just paint over it fully, because if you leave any of it, you know what happens. And then you hit remove. And you give it its prerequisite time. And you can add and subtract if you made a mistake, if you painted too much or painted too little. You got to give it its time, and then we'll see how it does. Not bad. Not bloody bad. And you get three choices again too, right? So if you don't like what it did here, you can go over here and you can click through to number. Now you don't get a preview like you do in Photoshop. You just click through and see what it looks like. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 3 is not good. And then if you don't like it, you can just hit generate again, and it'll generate 3 more for you, just like Photoshop would. Give it a sec, keep way, there we go. That's not too bad, right? And then you can tweak it as you want, once you get to that point. All right, there are people masking tools, and this is really great. You probably already know about these because they were released well over a year ago. But the people masking tools are a big jump up from select subject. So select subject was figure out what the subject of this photo is and choose it. So you had 3 things that you could choose right here, the select subject, select sky, select background. In this case, we'll choose select subject just to select her, and then you got to edit her as one whole thing. And that red tint shows you what it selected, right? That gives you the AI selected all this, and then to make the red tint go away, you move any slider, even a little bit, and then it just shows that, all right? So that was it. But what they've done is they've taken this up a notch, all right? So now what they've added is instead of just that, they have a thing called Select People. And you click on that right there. And then it shows a little thumbnail of her face. And if you click on it, give it a second, you can now do just facial skin, just body skin. And if you put your cursor over it, it highlights what it's going to select. Body skin, eyebrows, eye sclera, the iris and pupil, lips, teeth, hair, clothes, all that stuff. All right, and then you choose one you want to work on. We'll do close. You hit create mask, and now all the sliders are yours. And I'm just going to pull back the highlights because it's just a little bright because the light is right above her head. So it was just a little bright where she was. All right, and And there you go. You click again, and you can choose another area. If you want to do her hair, for example, we can do create mask, and then go to the highlights. I'm going to pull back the highlights in her hair. Again, just because her head is so close. You can see the edge of the softbox in the shot right up there. So that's where we're at. All right, number 4. This is an absolute game changer if you're a patient person. So they built in AI-based noise reduction that works phenomenally well, better than anything we've ever had before. I'm not scared of shooting at 20,000 ISO anymore because Lightroom will wipe it out and keep amazing detail. So we'll take a look at this image here, and this was shot at 8,000 ISO, which is a pretty good ISO there, 8,000. That's quite a lot, and if you zoom in tight, you'll see that it looks like it was snowing on my image. Quite a lot of noise at 8,000 ISO, especially since I brightened it a little and all that stuff. So let's go to the detail panel, and you'll find a thing called denoise, right? And it gives you, when you click it, it's going to bring up this little window here. Though they just updated all this stuff today, like a bunch of new features. All right, and it shows you the enhanced version. You can see right there, the noise is pretty much gone, but the detail is still there. And it gives you an estimated time of 25 seconds. Here's what I've learned about that estimated time. It is always wrong. It's always way, 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 way off. It says 25 seconds, there's no way. I've had people tell me, I've had people write me and say, I have kind of an older computer and it took 31 minutes to do that. So, so whatever time it says there, just know it's a super big liar face. But you do get a preview of what you're going to get there, so that's good. But it is, yeah, it's extremely, extremely lying. And so I'm not even going to make you wait for it because we have to end in 3 minutes and 24 seconds exactly. There's another thing called super resolution. I only use it when I'm printing. So a lot of times we have a gallery at our offices and we make these 24 by 36 prints for the gallery. And so I have to basically double the resolution. And that's all super resolution does, but it uses AI and it's brilliant because when you blow the image up to twice, it almost looks sharper than it did before you blew it up. It's kind of crazy. So we'll take a picture of this shot. Again, this was shot in Tampa. And it's my hometown. So look at this size, all right? So the image is 6,000 by 4,000, right? And so you're going to go over here and you're going to right click and you're going to choose enhance. Though now in the new version, you can just choose it, you know, if I haven't downloaded it yet. All right. And there it is, super resolution. Look at the estimated time, 4 seconds. Come on. I'm not falling for that, but let's just try. It's going to double the size, 4 seconds. Sure it is. All right, here we go. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it was close. But look, the size is now 12,000 by 8,000. It literally doubled the thing. It doubled it. So those are the 5 things that I wanted to show you inside of Lightroom that are AI based. So by the way, Photoshop's Camera Raw has all those features that I just showed you. So if you use Photoshop and you use Camera Raw or you use Lightroom, they're in both of them. Okay. So here's the message that I want you to take from this, right? As photographers, we can use AI and use it very responsibly, right? We can do it as a production tool to speed our work, to do things that we could have done on our own. Also, I want you to consider using this thing that Adobe has created with a consortium of other companies that are called content credentials. And basically, it embeds into your photo what you did to the photo. So someone can see by looking at the metadata that it embeds in there what you did. And it can see if you did generative AI or what you did, if it's a composite or everything, it'll be embedded in there. I know there's some people that say, I don't want anybody knowing what I did. And there's some people that said, hey, I think it's important for us to be transparent about this. It's in beta right now. When you go to export the file, you'll see content credentials is right there. And there's a lot more to it. You have to go to a website and sign in and all this kind of stuff. The first time you have to do it, just so they know who you are. And then there's a place for them to put your photos where they can go and they could find what you did to that photo. And you can go in also in Photoshop. There is the content credentials beta panel that comes up and it tells you, now, here's what I found. It doesn't always do everything you did to it, that's what I'm hoping on. No, I'm kidding. No, it doesn't always keep it in there, but it does. Look at that. Combined, you composited or reordered content or did something naughty. It says it right in there. All right? So just use it to do the things that you could already do in Photoshop, right? And that way you avoid ever feeling dirty. You don't feel icky. You don't feel like a cheater or a faker. You're just using the latest tools to help you to get the work done. So the less time you spend messing around in Photoshop, the more time that you can spend behind the camera. One last thing, I got to share you a wonderful quote from Richard Avedon. This was done, he made this quote, of course, well before AI was a thing, but it kind of sticks. All photos are accurate, but none of them is the truth. All right, thanks everybody. All right. Look at that. Right on the money.
You are on the money, as usual.
On time.
And we all really appreciate you making us still now go back to editing, but spend less time.
There you go.
And get a good night's sleep. Folks, we've got time for questions. Who here has some questions? Raise your hand. We got a couple
Make
over here.
them really easy, if possible.
Hey, I just got a quick question. When you regenerate and get 3 different new ones, is it a way to go back to the old ones if they're better than the new ones that you got? Or is
Man, I hope you guys heard his question, because his question is on the money. Because every time Photoshop generates something, think about that word generate. It creates a new set of eyes, a new mountain, a new whatever it is every time. If you don't save a Photoshop document with all those, you can't go back to the old stuff. You would have to save a Photoshop document with all those generative, like if let's say you did 12 of them, you'd have to save those, and it can go only to those 12. But if you've closed the document and reopen it, that generation is gone forever. It's a little tricky, because it's like what's on screen right now is what you get to keep. If you hit the little trash can to delete it, or you close the file without saving it as a PSD, like you flatten it and make it a JPEG, those generations will never come back. You'll get different of everything. It generates every one of them from scratch, which is what makes it so wonderful and at the same time weird. So to answer your question, if you want to keep those other generations so you can go back, you have to save it as a layered file in Photoshop document. Great question.
Hi.
You have to at least beat his question.
Big fan. My question is, I've been using AI for a while. What's the deal with fingers?
I'm sorry, what's the deal with what?
Fingers.
Fakers?
Fingers.
Oh, fingers.
Yeah.
Another great question. I think you did beat him. All right, so the deal with this is this. So if you've looked at other AIs, like let's say Midjourney or any of the other ones, you'll notice their fingers and their hands are on the money, because this is what Adobe decided to do. Adobe had in their agreement with their stock photographers that they were allowed to study their photos to create this generative AI. And they actually paid the photographers. They made a fee and they paid them out. What Midjourney and all the other companies did is they scoured the entire web for every single photo out there. So let's say that Photoshop's fingers and stuff were trained on 5 million photos. The other companies were trained on 500 million. The difference is Adobe thought we're the tool that content creators use to make their living. We better do this ethically. So they didn't do what everybody else did. I'm not calling on Midjourney necessarily, but just all these other companies that their stuff looks so great. Because the thing that in Photoshop is the most messed up are fingers. Like they'll add a 6th finger or a finger growing out the side. You'll see it for sure. Like you'll have to regenerate a couple of times to get the fingers. But that's what it is they used a very small set of fingers to study on, where some of these other ones literally studied like every image on the web, they scraped all of it. Where Adobe said, we're only going to do the people that signed this agreement, and we're going to have to pay all those people. You know, can you imagine how many they had to pay for the millions of images that they did? But there was only the ones that were in Adobe's ecosystem, and that people had a licensing agreement that said, yes, it's okay to study off our things. So, but you're right, they are messed up, and I don't know when they're getting better, but they do. They just announced a new, like the beta of Photoshop now has a more advanced engine, but I haven't downloaded it yet, right? Today was release day, and supposedly things are getting better, but fingers are, There, we'll roll the dice. There's a question right back there. Oh, he's got a mic though. Oh,
Hi.
hang on tight. We'll get you the mic next. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yes. So I do most of my work in Lightroom and then use Photoshop as a plugin. When I return back to Lightroom, it's in a PSD format.
Yeah.
Can I do denoise after I return it with a PSD file?
I think denoise wants to work on a raw file.
Okay, so I should do it before.
Yeah, and honestly, I would in my workflow, the very first thing I do is denoise.
Okay.
Like if I notice it's a really noisy photo, denoise it right then. I'll also give you another tip. I use a plugin. Since you mentioned plugins, I use a plugin from On1 software. Now, I have to tell you, they sponsor my podcast, but I'm not telling you that this is what I use. It's like $69, and it's lightning fast. It's like 4 seconds. It's like zippy. It's very good, and it does about the same job, or maybe even better than what Lightroom's does, but it's very, very, very fast. But I do it first. The name of it is On1 No Noise AI. So it's from On1 software. I think it's on1.com. But I'm telling you that they do sponsor my podcast. But I would just tell you, I'm telling you like I would tell a friend, yeah, we use it, Eric and my co-host, we both use it because it's just faster. It does essentially the same job, just really, really quick. Thank you for your patience over there.
Hi, quick question. The adaptive profile, I saw that you had to take out Adobe RGB. Does that mean that what happens to the color space then once you use this adaptive profile?
This is completely different than the color space for output and stuff like that. So Adobe sRGB and Adobe RGB are only when you go to export the files. When you go to export the files, that's when you'll see Adobe RGB and Adobe sRGB. But the profiles that are there are the same boring ones that have always been there. Adobe Color, Adobe Landscape, Adobe Portrait. And they're kind of based on the profiles that you could have chosen in your camera if you were shooting in JPEG. So yeah, they're still there. They're just in a different spot. Any other questions? Oh, right
yeah,
here.
one more. When you're taking a picture of somebody with thick glasses,
Yes.
and they're not looking straight into the camera, you get that weird distortion on the side of their face that's through the glasses. Will the generative fill take care of that, and what's the right selection for that?
Honestly, I have not tried that particular thing, but just as a general rule, I don't shoot people with thick glasses. It just, it's like, you know, if they have glasses that thick, they're never going to tell if I use generative fill or not. So, no, I'm sorry, I just have never tried it. So my answer would just be a guess. Sorry. Another question over there?
Yeah, quick question. So I noticed for now, AI tools work really well with realistic images, with real people and elements inside. But when I tried it with artwork or like stylized images, it has hard time to maintain the style when you generate new element or expand the image, which is stylized look. So
Right.
any plans from Adobe to improve that part also?
If they have that, if they have an idea to do that, and I knew about it, I couldn't tell you. They're really, really closed-lipped about whatever they're working on. But it would be a great thing to go by the Adobe booth tomorrow and just ask. The product managers are right there. The Photoshop and Lightroom product managers are literally working the booth. And they will tell you as much as they can tell you without breaking their own code. But I can tell you, I don't know of anything that they're doing in that, but they do all kinds of secret stuff. I would go up and ask them. They're actually extremely, really, really nice people. They're the most regular people you'll ever meet, so you'll enjoy getting to talk to them, because it seems like these are the wizards doing this crazy stuff, but they're just the nicest people, and they would love to talk to you about it. Go ask them and see, and I'll bet you'll be surprised that they might let you on to something I don't know about.
Hi. Is there a difference between using the camera raw function and using the Photoshop function for like selecting one of the things that I saw, the people masking tool?
So in the beta that just came out today, they now have a lot of those selections came out literally, I think, today. So you used to be able to just do select subject in Photoshop, and then you'd have to go to the masking tools to get hair and clothes and all that stuff. But today, they added all that up to the top menu. So you go select people, and it'll bring down a list of all the things, and it's more things than the mask will choose. So it's kind of the next generation of that stuff, and it's straight in Photoshop. You don't have to go to Camera Raw. It'll do, you know what else it'll like? It's taken it another step further. It'll do the clothes on top, your pants, it'll do your jacket, it'll do all these things separately much more so than masking does, which I imagine it's going to make its way to masking. But right now, it's just straight up in Photoshop. So yay you, good question. All right, yes?
Scott?
Yes.
An old-time NAP member here.
Oh, yeah.
For those of us who've been around that long, we were taught to compose in the viewfinder for 100%, and that's the way it was going to be. Now, you're moving bricks, you're moving things, you're taking from here and there.
Yeah.
Should we be leaving room around the center of the image
Yes.
to work Photoshop magic and
Yes.
throw out the old rules?
Yes. Here's the problem. To be honest with you, if I asked everybody in here, where's your image going to be seen? 90% of us would be Instagram this big. Looking at it at 100% size today is just not very realistic. That worked fine when our cameras were like 6 megapixels, but now that people are routinely using 50 megapixel cameras, I never look at them at 100%. You know, I try to look at them, I probably work at 25% a lot, and I know that it's going to wind up being this big. The world's going to see my image, and let me tell you something. You can get away with murder at this size. Instagram is the best thing that's ever happened if you're not really on your game. It's magic. So yeah, we just look at a much smaller size. I probably look at 25% or smaller most of the time while I'm working. And if you look in Lightroom, like for example, you never see it at 100% unless you go choose 100%, and then you're like looking at somebody's elbow in a portrait. It's like so zoomed in. And that's because the megapixels of the camera's tape just gotten so big that it just doesn't make sense to look at that zoomed out thing that we used to do. Now I see Gabe on the stage, and that usually means that question and answer time is over. Am I right, Gabe?
You're right. No, well, it can continue right on outside. So
right out
let's give Scott another big hand, folks.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.